Welcome to Politics on Point, the podcast series hosted by the Austrian Institute for European and Security Policy. Today's episode on Austria and United States Defense Cooperation is part of our Special Transatlantic Talks series, looking at the transatlantic relationship in this pivotal election year. This series is supported by the US Embassy in Vienna and organized in cooperation with the Young Transatlantic Initiative and the Young Atlantic Treaty Association, Austria. My name is Ulf Steindl. I'm a research fellow with the AIES, focusing on European defense issues. As my guest today, I'm proud to welcome Major General Norbert Huber. He is the Austrian Defense, Military, Naval, and Air Attaché to the US, Canada, and Brazil, and stationed since 2021 in Washington, D.C. The Major General completed his General Staff course in Vienna from 1991 to 1994, served some time at the Command and General Staff College of the US Army in Fort Leavenworth, and served as Director of Force Development as well as Director of Armament and Procurement for the Austrian Armed Forces. He also deployed to KFOR in Kosovo, and in 2017 was promoted to his current rank. Welcome, Major General, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the warm welcome and warm introduction. Happy Thanksgiving Day. We are celebrating here in the United States and in Canada Thanksgiving. I'm very happy that I can participate in this discussion.
Maybe as a easy start for our listeners to get a better understanding of your role, could you briefly explain your function and day-to-day work as the Austrian Defense Attaché in Washington, D.C.?
Absolutely. You have correctly described. I'm the Defense Attaché to the Austrian Defense Attaché to the United States. That encompasses that I'm also the military attaché, meaning I'm responsible for the relationship of the land forces, the air attaché concerning the Air Force and the space relationship. And even though Austria doesn't have a navy, I'm also the naval attaché. So I'm also responsible for the relationships to the Navy and the Marine Corps. And beside that, I'm also accredited to Canada in the same manner. I start early because we have been living in a different time zone, obviously. So if I want to speak to Vienna, it's most appropriate to do it very early in the morning. So I'm coming to the office at around 7:15. At that time, the office is already staffed. If I come to the office, I already have a view what the most pressing topics of the day in Austria and in the United States have been or will be. I then run through a lot of emails and see if I can make any adjustments for our week's schedule. So my one of my main function is to hold and improve the relationships, and that needs that I'm out, my team is out, and that we are creating a network here in Washington, D.C. that encompasses, of course, respective functions of the military, but also in the civil life. Washington is very well known for having about 100 think tanks, and also to them it makes sense to listen and see how the politics is evolving here in the United States. And what my comrades in Austria see as the fun part, in the evening, I also have to go and continue this networking. So there is sometimes between 2 and 7 functions in the evening. And the main goal is not to have a glass of wine or to have a chat with somebody nice. The main goal is really, again, to deepen this networking, to get known into other and different people, and try to build on that and strengthen the Austrian-American relationship.
Now, Austria is a small, landlocked country in the heart of Europe, but also most importantly, a neutral country for the duration of the Second Republic. At the same time, we have a very long-standing relationship with the United States also in defense cooperation. Just looking at my own family history, my grandfather as an officer, my father as an NCO, both were sent to the States to partake in educational courses, in training. And this approach continues to this day with, for example, Austrian soldiers taking part in the Rangers course. What is the reasoning for and the benefits for Austria to send soldiers for this kind of training? And what are the main areas of cooperation for this bilateral relationship?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. The United States is one of our most valued partners. We do have a long-standing relationship, and we are, of course, working. As in every relationship, I think you have to work to improve that. So we're also doing that. Here, there are a lot of different reasons. One reason is very simple. We have equipment which is manufactured in the United States. So if anything concerning maintenance or development is going on, you only can do it and can get this information from the manufacturer. The second thing, which is also important, and I think it's becoming more and more important, is the research sector. So the United States is also very famous for being one of the world's leader in research, and also some of the results of that are shared in conferences here in the United States, and this is also a reason why some of our colleagues from the Ministry of Defense and from our agencies come to the United States. And you mentioned your family ties. That goes more into the training part of that. I would compare it with a tennis player. If you want to be a professional tennis player, you need a lot of sparring partners, and it's probably good to have good sparring partners. So we like to train with the best. That's one issue. And the second issue is also that I think it's very smart to have not only one training partner, not to rely on one single nation, but have multiple and different nations. And the United States is able to be this partner. You mentioned that the Ranger. This is something a unique feature of a service which can be more or less only found here in the United States. So I think it makes sense. The reason is not to copy anything. The reason is really to improve our skills, to improve our capabilities, to get maybe also at some point in time a little bit of a correction. And I think this is very, very beneficial. You cannot get this out alone studying books.
Now, you used a very interesting analogy, the sparring partner and training with the best. In 2022, Austria actually signed a state partnership program with the state of Vermont. So out of 50 states, we have a state partnership program with one state, including cooperation between the Vermont National Guard and the Austrian Armed Forces. And since then, to my knowledge, twice F-35 were sent to Austria. And there were also joint trainings both in Europe and the US. What is the reasoning for cooperating more deeply with this single US state?
Yeah, the background is there's a worldwide partnership program from the United States, or more precisely from the National Guard Bureau. And we have been accepted into this program, as you mentioned in 22. And the reason is first we have a long-standing relationship, but it was not it was more or less on a case by case basis. And I think it's very smart to have an institutional approach. And the Vermont National Guard is this institutional approach. It's, so to say, our access ticket to, in the effect, to the whole National Guard units which cover everything from Air Force and land forces, even Space Force. And I think that's very good to have this institutional relationship, not to run only on a case by case basis. We are very proud and very satisfied to be partnered with the Vermont National Guard. I was told more than 15 states wanted to be a partner of Austria. So in the end, the decision was made for Vermont, which I think has a lot of logical reasons. First, we do have a partnership which is going back to the 80s between the two mountain warfare schools. There's a mountain warfare school in Austria, and there's a mountain warfare school also in Vermont for the whole U.S. Army. So there has been a relationship quite over the years. The second thing is that Vermont, and especially the National Guard, they are running on a kind of militia system, which is at least similar to what we are doing. The tasks between the National Guard in general, and of course also the Vermont National Guard and the Austrian Armed Forces are very, very similar. And not to forget, there are also some historic ties. You may smile about that. But the von Trapp family, who were forced to leave Austria in 1938, they settled down in Vermont. So this is also maybe just a tiny notice, but some which is very well regarded here in the United States.
Now, after looking at cooperation in North America, maybe let's switch to the European theater. The United States are also the principal actor still in NATO, and Austria is part of the NATO Partnership for Peace program and also participating there in missions and orienting itself for standardization, for example. Do you see any complementarity of, on the one hand, the cooperation with Vermont and the United States as a whole, and on the other side with NATO?
Absolutely. We have to recognize, and I came to recognize this very, very quickly when I came here, that first all our European partner nations in the EU, and even those who are not in the EU, like our Swiss neighbors, do have a very good and long bilateral relationship with the United States, which to some extent exceeds that what Austria has done. So I think we have to understand that the bilateral relationship is one thing, and the multilateral relationship, where we only participate in the partnership for peace, as we are not a NATO member, as you correctly said, that are two different shoes, but as you pointed out, they are of course interconnected. And so I think it's a very smart idea to try to strengthen relationship with the United States. Why? Because the United States does of course have a certain influence and investing a lot of money into the NATO security architecture. So a lot of things which are thought here in the United States and developed here in the United States are 5 years later transitioning to NATO. If you only take it from the NATO via the Partnership of Peace, you lose 5 years, and this is for the development of armed forces a very long time. So I think we have to do both. We have to have a very good bilateral relationship with the United States, and at the same time have our also a good relationship within the framework of Partnership for Peace.
Now, you already referenced the role of, or the position of, the United States in advanced defense technologies and their leading role in the whole sector. In 1991, Austria signed a reciprocal defense procurement agreement with the United States, and in 2023 followed up with an updated version. And Austria also uses the foreign military sales scheme to procure equipment. For example, the current expansion of the Black Hawk fleet in the Austrian Air Force. On the other hand, we see already since 2016, but even with more effort since 2022, this approach in Europe to promote Buy European. That is, on the one hand, to strengthen European defense industries, but also to some aspect to limit the dependence on the United States. If we look at the ITAR regulations, the International Traffic in Arms regulations, that gives the United States a say in the re-export of defense equipment. Do you see any limitations for, on the one hand, the Austrian Armed Forces, and on the other, with the upcoming, currently negotiated European Defense Investment Program, which would promote this Buy European approach, would a stronger role of US defense enterprises in Austria limit the potential of Austrian industries to actually profit from EU programs?
It's a big question and a great question. So I thought on that first. One have to acknowledge the United States is obviously smarter than the European nation, because you mentioned the foreign military sales program. I'm a little away from that topic, but I think we don't have such a very easy way to procure between armed forces in Austria, in Europe. And you mentioned the current situation that the Europeans are trying to get together closer and operate also in the acquisition branch, but it's still more or less a one-on-one basis, and I think we are still thinking, or some of the nations are still thinking very much in a national way on their defense industry, and that brings us then to the fact that we have more than one tank, that we have more than one plane, and of course we don't get the numbers which the United States can produce. That's one. The second thing is that I think, and Austria is on the European, very much on the European path, so we don't have really many big items which are produced or manufactured in the United States. We still have some smaller items, especially in the communication sector, because in this case the United States are simply the world leader. So if you want to have a secure link between planes, it's no matter which plane you are buying in Europe, even it is called a European plane, you have components of the United States, and you have to ask the United States, because as you mentioned totally correctly, the United States, as every other country, cares who uses their technology. So in the end, I think all the regulations concerning ITAR are somewhat similar, because no country has an interest that we as Austrians would sell the technology we buy from some other country to anybody else. So that's especially in the times we are living now, where there is to say it in a positive way, a very hard competition in technology. That's an absolute no-go. So the idea that we are buying stuff and that we can selling it, can do what we ever would like to do, that's something which is I think in the past. As far as I have and as far as I observe this, we are of course, as Austrian Armed Forces, looking for the best equipment to an affordable price. So that drives the the main decision-making points, and we are looking very much to see where do we have an economy and of scale, and where with which country we can cooperate, because in effect most of the equipment you are buying is a kind of computer connection of different computer, even if it's a tank, if it's an armored vehicle, not to speak about a plane or a helicopter. It's in the end it's a agglomeration of computers in a plane or in a vehicle. And having said that, like it's with your mobile phone and with your television set, after at least or the maximum 10-15 years, you have to do some necessary steps. And if you have to do it alone, this is simply for a small country not possible. So smaller countries like Austria always have to look to another nation and have to buy products where the next step can be done together with the nation and not have to be done alone, because we simply could not afford it, and it's probably also not feasible. So whatever we are doing in the acquisition, we have to look either to the United States or to our European partner. And by the way, the revelations will be pretty much the same. So the situation is really coming down. What is the best product for us? What is the most affordable price? Where do we get a cooperation outside? I personally would say it would also make sense to look to one of our closest neighbors and friends, to our Swiss partner. I think they have pretty much the same scheme I just mentioned, and I think they are very hard looking behind their Swiss francs. So I would be very confident if I look to my Swiss colleagues. But of course, it's in the end it's a national decision driven by the Minister of Defense and the Austrian government, which program we are pursuing, and you are right, and everybody else is right, saying it's more than one option now. We simply have to choose the best option for Austria.
That brings us to the last and maybe most complicated question, and that is Donald J. Trump was elected for a second term in office as President of the United States, and this has reawakened the fears in Europe of abandonment, but also some uncertainty about the general foreign policy position of the United States in the future. Now, this is obviously a huge topic, and there are a lot of points we could discuss in it. Just narrowing it down to the topic of our episode today on cooperation between the US and Austria, do you see any potential effect of the new orientation of the next administration on this cooperation, and will it to some extent affect Austrian defense planning itself?
Well, contrary to my other answers, I try to give a very short answer and say no. I think the consequences for Austria, no, I don't see any immediate consequences. I don't see any consequences for our defense planning, because we have done, I think, a very good comprehensive defense planning. There, of course, will be consequences for Europe. If I'm allowed to touch on that, I just would add a little bit first. I think we have to really let the government do the transition and take over. So and this I would like to share with you. We in Europe probably have sometimes a different impression, and really, to my honest feeling, I think sometimes this impression is misleading. And I give you a short example. In Europe and to some parts also in the United States, even on, I think, November 4th, you have been reading that's a very tight race and it could go in every way. And I was traveling quite a lot, and I personally was wondering about this predictions about the tight race, because it didn't fit to what I have seen and experienced and talked to the people. So to sum up, we really have to let the government work. It's not our government; it's the U.S. Government, and maybe not everything turns out as it is depicted before, because media and whoever paints a picture sometimes paints a picture with a little personal background, and I think especially in politics you should and especially in foreign relations you should not do that you bring your own personal views on that. Coming back to the topic, I said no, there will be no immediate consequences. I've spoken to a lot of people, and I think especially the state partnership program has a benefit on both sides. So it's not just us taking something out. We are giving also a lot of experience back. So it's really a beneficial program, and always got the highest praise about our soldiers being involved in exercises, trainings, or whatever. So that's the first point. The second point is of course that we have been, and Austria is no exception. Unfortunately, we have seen our security more or less secured by the United States and also paid by the United States. This is, I think, which draw up some critics. So it's nothing new, which I'm telling you. You and all our listeners have probably heard that. And I think we have to take, and we started that in our defense program mission forwards already. We have to take our security in our hand, and especially, and I would like to mention this, is especially we need to protect our people, and so far air defense, the whole military life I was raised, air defense was considered to protect the soldiers, which is nice. But now we have to really think, and you only have to look to Ukraine, and you have to look to Israel to know that Austria, we need to protect our population. We need to protect our people. Yes, and the unfortunate truth is, yes, that costs money which we haven't spent in the past, and which we probably, and to my humble opinion, which we should do. And I see all this what I said, I see reflected in our plan. So the Minister of the Defense, General Staff already have reflected that, and so I hope, and I'm very confident that this will materialize over the next years.
Thank you for that, Mercy. Positive note to end this episode. I'm sure the topics you mentioned now at the end of the need to reestablish our own defense and our own defense capabilities will follow us through our work in the coming months and years. Thank you very much, Major General, for giving us the time today for this episode, and I wish you a nice holiday in the US.
Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure. I wish you and the listeners all the best. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving again.